There is a reason why, despite the passing of time, despite the silence, and despite the decisions you have already made, that person still lingers in your mind like a whisper that never fades. Perhaps you have tried everything, changing your environment, keeping yourself busy, even convincing yourself that you have moved on from that story. And yet they return in dreams, in memories, in songs, in words spoken by others without intention. Why does this presence refuse to disappear? What does it truly mean to keep thinking about someone who is no longer an active part of your life? Carl Jung would not have dismissed it as mere attachment or emotional dependency. For him, the unconscious mind operates with reasons that the conscious mind does not yet fully comprehend. When someone remains deeply engraved in your inner world, it is not necessarily a sign that you should reunite with them. It is not even proof that love is still alive. Instead, it signifies that there is something within you that has yet to be seen, acknowledged, or healed. Something that this person came to reveal. Jung taught that our relationships are not random. Every person who enters our life, especially those who leave an emotional imprint, serves a psychic function. They act as mirrors, reflecting what we have yet to recognize within ourselves. That persistent mental presence may have little to do with the person themselves and more to do with what they represented. Perhaps they triggered an old wound, embodied an unconscious image you have carried since childhood, or served as a catalyst for an internal awakening that you have yet to fully understand. For this reason, constantly thinking about someone is not necessarily a sign of unresolved love, but of an incomplete inner process. The mind, when it does not fully comprehend an experience, repeats it. It repeats it to understand. It repeats it to heal. And as long as the lesson remains unintegrated, it will keep returning. Jung stated clearly, "What you do not make conscious will manifest in your life as fate." If, instead of fighting against these thoughts, you choose to listen to them, not from nostalgia or longing, but from deep curiosity, what part of you was activated by that person? What wounds did they touch? What emotions did they force you to confront? Because if you are constantly thinking about someone, it is not them demanding your attention. It is a part of yourself that was illuminated through that relationship. Sometimes the mind insists because something within you remains incomplete, and that unfinished work is not outside of you, nor is it with the other person. It is within you. This is where true inner work begins. It is not about forcefully severing ties or pretending that they never existed. It is about facing the emotional truth they left behind, because as long as you keep running from it, it will continue to chase you. This is not about idealizing the past or clinging to something that no longer exists. It is about understanding that your unconscious mind is still working with that bond. Jung explained that when an emotional experience is not integrated, it becomes an energetic knot in your psyche, a knot that influences your decisions, your future relationships, and even your self-esteem. That is why, when you think of that person, you are not simply reliving the past out of weakness. You are revisiting something unresolved, something that is still waiting to be untangled. Not with rejection, but with compassion. And no, you are not crazy. You are not broken. You are not weak for still thinking about someone. You are human. And you are going through one of the deepest processes a soul can experience. The integration of an emotional experience that transformed your life. Do not punish yourself for it. Instead, be grateful that your mind is showing you exactly what still needs your love and presence. Many times, we believe that love is what binds us to someone, but love is not always the force that keeps us attached. Sometimes, it is an unresolved emotion, an unconscious need, or an image we projected without realizing it. According to Carl Jung, we do not love with the heart alone. We love with the entire psyche, and within that psyche are fragments of history, repressed desires, fears we have yet to confront, and symbols that guide us towards something we need to learn. So if you still find yourself thinking about that person, it may not be love, it may be a psychic resonance. Something within you responded to something within them, and that response has not yet been fully integrated. Thinking constantly about someone may be the manifestation of an activated archetype. Perhaps they represented the figure of a savior, an ideal, an emotional refuge, or even a shadow disguised as light. Carl Jung explained that the collective unconscious is filled with universal images that reside within all of us. These archetypes are deeply embedded in our psyche, shaping our perceptions, emotions, and experiences in ways we often do not consciously realize. When someone activates one of these profound images within us, the impact is so deep that even after their departure, the sensation of something missing lingers. This absence is not necessarily because that person is irreplaceable, but because the symbol they embodied has yet to be fully understood or integrated within us. That persistent thought, that constant mental presence of someone who is no longer part of our life, is often not about them at all. Instead, it is a search for closure, but not closure with them. It is a search for closure within yourself. Your unconscious is calling you back to the moment when everything changed, not so you can remain stuck there, but so you can reclaim what you lost when you gave yourself away without reservation. Perhaps you sacrificed parts of yourself for love. Maybe you silenced your voice to avoid conflict, altered your nature to fit into their world, or suppressed your desires to maintain harmony. And even though that person is no longer present in your life, the echo of that self-abandonment continues to reverberate within you. Every time you think of them, your unconscious might not be longing for the relationship itself, but trying to return to you what you once surrendered. It is telling you, look here. Here is where a silent agreement was made, where you ceased to be fully yourself. It is not that you necessarily want to rekindle the relationship. Rather, a part of you desires to come home to yourself. And that, according to Jung, is the true spiritual work. To retrieve what was lost in the journey of love, even when love meant forgetting yourself. Thinking about someone is not always about nostalgia. Sometimes it is a form of resistance to growth. Because growing requires accepting that, no matter how meaningful that story was, it has already fulfilled its purpose. And here lies the internal conflict between the conscious and the unconscious. Your rational mind understands that it is time to move forward, yet your unconscious still seeks understanding. It does not want to simply forget. It wants to integrate. It wants to make sense of the experience, to transform the wound into wisdom. And for that, you need presence. Not more distractions, not more desperate attempts to silence your thoughts. Instead, what is required is an honest and compassionate gaze into what truly happened. What did you discover about yourself in that relationship? What parts of you blossomed, and which parts withered away? Who did you truly love? The person or the image you created of them? These are not just casual reflections. They are keys that unlock inner doors that have remained shut since it all ended. Your soul knows that thinking about this person is not a mistake. It is a call to wake up. And the more you allow yourself to answer that call without judgment, the closer you come to true closure, the kind that does not depend on conversations, reunions, or external validation, but on a deep and personal acceptance. The story was what it needed to be, and now the journey is about returning to yourself. When Carl Jung spoke of individuation, he was referring to this very process, the journey back to the self. Every intense relationship, every loss, every love that left its mark on your soul is part of that journey, not to define you, but to refine you, as if every person you have ever loved was a mirror reflecting hidden aspects of yourself, aspects you had yet to discover. And when you remember that person, what you are truly seeing is not them, but yourself, illuminated in a new way. There are connections that are not severed by absence. Some people do not need to be physically present to continue influencing your emotions, your thoughts, even your daily choices. That is the true depth of a psychological bond. It is not measured by physical proximity, but by the invisible imprint it leaves within you. And that imprint, according to Jung, is not merely the residue of love. It is the result of a resonance between your unconscious and the symbolic role that person played in your life. It is not that you are trapped in the past because of weakness. Rather, it is because your soul still has something to tell you through that story, something you may not have been able to hear while you were emotionally entangled. When we are deeply immersed in a relationship, especially one that touches the very core of our being, clarity is difficult to maintain. The intensity of emotions clouds our judgment. Our feelings dominate our perspective. But when everything ends, when silence settles in, then arises the true opportunity for understanding. And thinking about that person is not necessarily a regression. It can be the beginning of profound realization, the emergence of wisdom that has been waiting to unfold within you. Carl Jung believed that human encounters, especially the most significant ones, are not mere coincidences. They are meetings between souls that recognize each other at a level far deeper than the conscious mind can perceive. This is why, even when you rationally try to move on, something within you resists. There is an unresolved message, a lesson encoded within that experience, waiting to be fully understood. That message is not in the other person. It is within you. It lies in what that relationship awakened, what it stirred within your being, and how it transformed you. Many times, we convince ourselves that if we could just understand the other person, why they did what they did, why they left, why they hurt us, we would finally find closure. But the truth is, closure is never dependent on what the other person says or does. It depends entirely on what you are willing to see within yourself. Perhaps they hurt you. Perhaps they betrayed you, disappointed you, or left you without an explanation. But beyond the pain, there is a lesson your soul needs to integrate. And that lesson does not come through logic. It comes through the emotional experience that still lingers inside of you. What remains in your mind is not the person themselves, but the unresolved emotional experience. It is an incomplete process, suspended in time, waiting to be acknowledged, felt, and ultimately released. More often than not, what we struggle to let go of is not the person. It is the part of ourselves that emerged in their presence. It is the version of you that surfaced during that connection, the one you may not have fully understood, the one you are still unsure if it deserved love. It is that vulnerable facet of yourself, perhaps one you did not even know existed, that was rejected or ignored. And because you did not know how to process that rejection, your mind clings to it, replaying it, analyzing it, reliving it, until you can integrate it with love. You do not need more external answers. What you need is to allow yourself to feel what you have been avoiding. Jung famously said, "What you resist persists." And often, the persistence of a thought is nothing more than the result of avoiding an emotion. So ask yourself, what did you truly feel during that experience? What fear was so overwhelming that you decided to bury it? What part of you was silenced in order to maintain that connection? This is the true source of the attachment that still binds you. Liberation is not a straight path, nor is it immediate. It is a descent into the depths of your soul. And though it may be painful, that very pain is proof that something within you is awakening. Perhaps what you truly need is not to stop thinking about that person, but to stop judging yourself for doing so. Because as long as you fight your own thoughts, you will not be able to access the message they hold. And that message is the key to your growth, your healing, and your transformation. Your unconscious is guiding you towards something greater, not toward the return of a person, but toward the return to yourself, to that place where you feel whole without needing external validation. Because when you finally understand what that person represented, when you integrate the meaning of their presence in your life, you no longer need them to be physically present in order to find peace. And that is true freedom, when you can remember without pain, when you can release without fear, when you can love without attachment. At some point, you may have tried to replace that person. Maybe you did it consciously, seeking someone to fill the void. Or perhaps, without realizing it, you started comparing every new person to the one who is no longer there. But no matter how much you try, the feeling lingers, as if nothing quite fits, as if no new story resonates the same way inside you. And that is not because this person was irreplaceable. It is because the connection you had with them was not just human, it was symbolic. It activated a part of you that you had never met before. And now, your journey is to meet that part of yourself, not through the presence of another, but through your own self-discovery. That is where healing begins. That is where you reclaim your power. That is where you find the version of you that does not just survive without them, but thrives. Jung explained that every deep bond in our lives activates an inner dimension, a hidden layer of our psyche that often remains dormant until a profound connection awakens it. When you miss someone, you are not just longing for their presence, you are yearning for the version of yourself that existed when you were with them. Perhaps you were more vulnerable, more open, more connected to your emotions. Or maybe, in that bond, you lost yourself, sacrificing parts of your essence to maintain the illusion of togetherness. In both cases, thinking about that person is, at its core, thinking about a part of yourself that needs to be rescued, understood, and embraced. This is the key that transforms memory into wisdom. Your unconscious mind is constantly working to restore balance within you. It is not your enemy. It does not want you to suffer or remain stuck in the past. Instead, it uses the tools at its disposal, dreams, recurring thoughts, unexpected emotions, to guide you toward integration. If a person frequently appears in your mind, it is because there is an unresolved emotional story within you that has not yet been fully processed, not through logic, but through symbolism. According to Jung, healing is not a rational process. It is an inner alchemy, an unconscious transformation that only occurs when you allow the unknown within you to become conscious. This alchemy cannot be rushed. It requires stillness, introspection, and the ability to appreciate the significance of what you have lived, not from a place of guilt or longing, but from gratitude. Gratitude not for what was lost, but for what was learned. Because every connection that leaves a mark on us carries within it a seed of transformation. Even if, at this moment, all you can perceive is pain or confusion, buried within that experience is an essential component of your awakening. The goal is not to erase the memory, but to release the weight that it carries. And that is only possible when you stop looking outward for answers and start looking inward, recognizing your role in everything you have felt. Not to blame yourself, but to reclaim your power. The power to understand why you clung so tightly, why you idealized that person, why the loss hurt so deeply. Jung believed that the unconscious stores our experiences not just as memories, but as living symbols that shape our perception of reality. Perhaps this person, without even realizing it, was the catalyst for your transformation, a mirror reflecting parts of yourself that were ready to emerge. And now, what you perceive as attachment may simply be a stage in that process of inner revelation. You do not need to force this person out of your mind. Instead, you need to understand what they represent. What part of you did they awaken? What unfulfilled promise still echoes in your soul? Only then can you turn the page without feeling that something remains unfinished. It is not about forgetting. It is about closing the chapter from the heart. And true closure happens when you recognize that real love does not always take the form of permanence. Sometimes, love comes to reveal something to us, and then it leaves. When we fail to accept this, the soul remains trapped in an endless waiting that leads nowhere. Your mind is not the problem. Your emotions are not the problem. The real conflict arises when you try to force forgetting without having completed understanding. And this is where Jung invites us to go deeper, to stop searching for external solutions and instead engage in dialogue with that wounded part of ourselves that still longs to be seen and heard. Because that is the only way the image of that person will stop haunting you. Not because you have erased them, but because they no longer have anything left to teach you. When someone continues to appear in your mind despite time, distance, and logic telling you that there is nothing left to hold on to, what is truly manifesting is not that person. It is an internal process that you have yet to complete. It is a psychic movement seeking resolution, calling for your attention from the depths of your being. And no matter how many times you try to ignore it, the unconscious does not disappear through denial. It simply transforms into symptoms, into repetitive thoughts, into emotions that defy explanation, into decisions that you struggle to understand. It will persist until you acknowledge it, until you face it, and until you finally integrate it into your wholeness. According to Carl Jung, the soul possesses its own intelligence, an ancient wisdom that does not adhere to the rules of logic or the linear progression of time. Instead, it moves through symbols, images, and emotionally charged experiences. If your soul continues to return to a certain person, it is because something significant happened there, something that needs to be retrieved. Not to go back, but to reclaim a part of yourself that you have yet to integrate. That person could have been light or shadow, comfort or wound. But what truly matters now is not what they were, but what they awakened within you. Many times, we engage in relationships from a place of invisible lack. We search in others for what we have not been able to give ourselves, and when that relationship ends, we feel as though something has been torn away from us. But what truly hurts is not the loss of the other person. It is the emptiness that has been exposed. Jung believed that every loss is also an opportunity, an invitation to see that emptiness not as a punishment, but as fertile ground where something new can grow. But for this to happen, you must stop focusing on the absence of the other and begin to understand what that absence is trying to teach you. This is not about filling the space with distractions. It is not about hardening yourself or pretending that nothing happened. It is about descending into that place where it still hurts, with the willingness to understand. Because when you dare to look at pain with awareness, it stops controlling you. It no longer defines you. Instead, it becomes a portal to something deeper. Jung taught that it is in moments of crisis that the soul has the opportunity to expand, and this persistent mental urge to return to someone may be your inner crisis, pushing you toward growth, urging you to see beyond what is immediately apparent. Not everything you feel is a sign to take action externally. Sometimes, what you feel is an invitation to turn inward, to explore your own history, your emotional needs, and your relational patterns. You may be unconsciously repeating a bond that you have known long before, perhaps one that originated in childhood with figures who left an emotional imprint on you. And this person, the one who now lingers in your thoughts, may have activated that old bond without you even realizing it. Not to confuse you, but to offer you a new opportunity to heal. When you understand this, something shifts. You no longer see that person as an obsession or an open wound, but as a symbol urging you to look at what you have been avoiding. Maybe it was the need to feel validated. Maybe it was the fear of not being enough. Maybe it was the hope that someone would come and complete you. And in recognizing this, you reclaim your power. Because what you once believed only the other person could give you begins to bloom from within. This is deep work. It is not comfortable, but it is transformative. It is about seeing what that relationship revealed about you. It is about extracting meaning from the memory. It is about being grateful even for what hurt. Because that pain illuminated something that needed to be healed. When you do this, your energy shifts. You are no longer at war with what was. You are no longer waiting for the thoughts to disappear. Instead, you are embracing what belongs to you. The lessons, the growth, the seed of a new version of yourself that emerged because of that encounter. There will come a moment when that person stops appearing in your mind with the same intensity, not because you erase them, nor because you replace them, but because they no longer occupy the same space within you. The memory will remain as part of your story, but it will no longer hurt. It will no longer disturb you. It will no longer dictate your emotions. And on that day, without even realizing it, you will have completed a cycle. Because what truly gets released is not the person, it is the energy you unknowingly invested in them. It is the expectation you placed upon them. It is the part of you that was still waiting for answers or a different ending. And when all of that transforms, what remains is peace. A deep, genuine peace. Not the kind you fake to move on, but the kind that comes when you no longer need to understand everything, to feel at ease. Jung said that there is no awakening of consciousness without pain. And yes, thinking constantly about someone can be a form of pain, but it can also be a sign that you are on the edge of a transformation. Do not run from what you feel. Do not punish yourself for remembering. Listen to what your soul is trying to tell you through those thoughts. Because behind every emotion, there is a truth waiting to be revealed. And that truth is not outside of you. It has always been within. You have gone through a process that many people experience, but few dare to look at with true depth. If you are listening to this, if you have made it this far, it is because something within you is ready to let go. Not from forgetfulness, but from understanding. Not from rejection, but from love for yourself. That is the closure your soul needs. And when you do this, not only do you heal yourself, but you also pave the way for others to do the same. Because your process has meaning. Your pain has meaning. And so does your awakening. If this message resonated with you, if at any moment you felt as if we were speaking directly to your soul, then I invite you to be part of this growing community. This is not just a space for content. It is a space for connection, for understanding, and for transformation. Every time you share what you feel, every time you leave a comment expressing your experience, every time you give a like or share this video, you are doing something much bigger than you realize. You are helping this message reach someone who desperately needs it. You are becoming a link in a chain of light, a guiding force that may lead someone to the clarity they have been searching for. There are people out there, just like you, who are experiencing the same emotions, facing the same struggles, but they haven't yet found the words to express what they feel. They might still be lost in confusion, in doubt, in uncertainty. And maybe, just maybe, you are the bridge that will lead them to a moment of realization. Maybe your comment, your engagement, your presence here will be the sign they were waiting for, to know that they are not alone. This channel exists for a reason. To remind you that your emotions matter, that your inner work, the effort you put into understanding yourself, healing and evolving, is not just changing your life, it is inspiring others to change theirs as well. So, if this content has touched something deep within you, if it has sparked a realization, a feeling of connection, or even just a moment of peace, let it be known. Leave a comment, share your thoughts, express what this journey means to you. Not out of obligation, not because it's expected, but because together we are creating something greater than ourselves, a space where deep knowledge, emotional healing, and authenticity are not just ideas, but realities. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening with an open heart, for daring to look inward, for allowing yourself to feel, to question, to grow. This is your moment. You are living it with courage, and that is something truly powerful. I'll see you in the next video.